Welcome to episode 3 of the Cyberpunk 2077 Melee Only Challenge. When we last left off, we had just gotten the gorilla arms and the mantis blade implants. Next up on the agenda is to infiltrate a nightclub called Clouds in order to rescue a kidnapped Evelyn Parker. When inside the club, I need a key card to access the VIP room. So I did what any man would do, and I followed another man into the bathroom. I contemplated the ethical implications of killing this man for an access card. I mean, as an avid consequentialist, I really have to consider this from all angles, and I really have to scrutinize— Wait a minute, is he completely missing the urinal?
Just hanging around.
Alright, time to sneak into the VIP section. I relinquished my weapons when I entered the club, so let's look for something. I find a katana and a box nearby. This couch won't stop me. This guy had a throwing knife on him. It's not very good, but it'll do for now. I get to Woodman's office. It's sort of a mini boss fight. He isn't too difficult, but I can die if I'm not careful. My strategy was just dancing around the room while I slash him up with the mantis blades. Woodman's death ends up putting the club on high alert, so I have to fight my way out. I open with a knife throw on the motorcycle helmet guy. Then I move in with the finish using power attacks with the katana. Next up is a big body elite enemy. This guy can really take a beating, and he doesn't always stagger when I hit him, so I need to play the encounter evasively. After some dancing around him, I managed to take him out, almost dying in the process. I move down to the next floor. Let's clear it out.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Oh, don't mind me, playing with the in-game camera. After collecting back my regular weapon loadout, I make my way out of the club. I level up and put a point into the reflex tree. A commenter suggested that I should grab the Flash and Thunderclap perk, so I'll be making my way towards that. Shout out to Bob the Blaster for the suggestion. Speaking of commenters, one of them notified me that I missed the iconic katana Satori earlier in the game. I asked him where at, and another commenter came through with a detailed write-up of how to obtain it. So shout out to Guy, whose name I'm not going to say out loud, and shout out to Dark Touch. This weapon is supposed to be unobtainable after playing the hotel heist mission with Jackie earlier in the game. So at this point, if I wanted this katana, I had two options. The first option was to reload a save earlier to that point in the game. I wasn't really fond of this option since it required me to replay a large portion of the game, which brings me to option 2, breaking into Konpeki Plaza. What exactly makes getting back into Konpeki Plaza after the heist mission so difficult? Well, after the murder of Saburo, the entire area is supposed to be shut down and no one is allowed in. However, the brilliant Cyberpunk community have come up with creative ways of getting into the hotel in order to obtain the iconic katana. So we're going to do just that. Let's break the game. Before I get into Konpeki Plaza, I need two things: the double jump implant and the Kobe C-125 car, both of which cost a considerable sum of money. I'm going to be abusing a money duplicating exploit in order to get enough cash to buy both of these things. If you want a detailed explanation of how this glitch is done, you can go watch McDizzle Gaming's video on the subject matter where he shows you in detail how to perform this glitch. I'm going to explain it very basically. Step 1 is to have one stack of a small junk item in your inventory. In my case, it was 3 bandages. I went to a drop point to sell these bandages because they carry 40,000 eddies, but this should work at most vendors. Next, while in the vendor UI, for PC, hover the item and hold G and left click and then press F. Sell one less than the maximum on the stack. When you do this correctly, the game gives you the money for the item twice and duplicates the entire stack in the buyback menu along with the stack you sold it. You just buy the stack back. From here, it's just rinse and repeating until the vendor runs out of money, then move on to the next vendor. In my case, I only wanted enough money to buy the 2 things I needed, so I jumped up to 71k and figured that would be plenty to get the double jump and the car. After obtaining the cash, I buy the car I need from the internet. Now, I needed to get to the Ripper Doc Fingers in order to buy the implant. By the way, by jumping and air dashing around everywhere, I gain XP for the passive shinobi tree. When I get to Finger's office, there was a problem. I was currently tied up in his quest line and I needed to complete it before I could purchase anything from him. So let's go ahead and finish his quest. This quest happens to be the one where I infiltrate a base to save Evelyn Parker. Before infiltrating the building, I find a tire iron in a nearby box. It's a decent little blunt weapon, so I'll use it. After some fighting, Judy joins me to help me find Evelyn. In this area there were mostly some low-level grunt enemies that I could make short work of with the tire iron. Nothing too difficult or notable. There was also this tanky elite enemy, but with Judy constantly barraging him with bullets and me staggering him with the tire iron, we make short work of him. I ding level 10 in the shinobi tree, which gives me 5% stamina cost reduction on dodging and dashing. Not too incredible, but I thought it was worth mentioning. This is the last little floor before I get to where Evelyn is being held. Hardest thing about this room was picking off the enemies one by one without dying to being shot in the back. What? Don't look at me like that. I finally get to Evelyn and rescue her. Now I can go buy the implants I need from Fingers. I buy reinforced tendons, unlocking the ability to double jump. Now we can break into Konpeki Plaza to obtain Satori. Big shout out to Handsome Tez, who has a great video on how to glitch back into Konpeki Plaza. It's the guide that I followed. First, right outside the plaza, there's a wall that I need to get over. I placed my car next to the wall and double jumped in to get back into the plaza. From there, I simply ran to the entrance of the hotel. Next is the tricky part. I called my car, the Kobe C125, which notably has doors that open traditionally. Next up was jimmying the car into just the right spot to force the hotel door to open. This part took some time as finding the perfect spot was rather finicky. And when I finally hit the right spot, the door should open up just like this. When inside, make your way to this elevator. There's been some debate among the community whether or not this exploit is intentional. After all, CG Projekt Red keeps patching ways to get in, and the community just finds more ways to get in. I'm of the personal belief that obtaining the katana in this way is very much intentional, as a fun little Easter egg of sorts for the players to explore. After all, if they truly wanted to get rid of it, why wouldn't they just remove the Satori spawn after that mission ends? Anyway, after the elevator ride, I make my way to this light fixture to jump on top of it. There's a convenient hole here. Don't get me started on convenient holes. After that, I make this jump here. Then I jump across this big gap over here. Another jump here, and shortly after, another jump. Great, now I can go back to the room where Saburo was murdered. I truly believe this sequence of events is intentional. It all just feels a bit too perfect. I go upstairs to the helipad, and there it is. I finally obtained the Satori katana. The katana has a special effect with the Nihon dagger. Bleeding with one weapon and then striking with the other will cause hemorrhaging, which drains enemy health and rapidly regenerates yours. Also, at some point, I unlock the lead and steel perk, which lets me deflect with a blade weapon. I also pick up seeing double, which increases damage and stun chance on counterattack. Exiting the hotel was as easy as going back the same way I came. Let's test out the hemorrhaging effect of the two weapons. So when I get the bleed off with one weapon and attack with the other, you can see my health rapidly regenerating. This is an absolute game changer for this challenge room. Next up on the docket is to go visit the Voodoo Boys and complete their questline. I meet Placide, who tasks me with rescuing Brigitte, the leader of the Voodoo Boys. In order to do so, I have to fight my way through enemy resistance in a mall. Ah, shut up. After killing the last enemy outside of the mall, Placide calls to tell me to make no noise. Where was that call 10 minutes ago, bud? Once inside the mall, my stealth approach didn't last very long, and I found myself in the middle of an all-out brawl. If anything was going to carry me through this encounter, it was going to be my new hemorrhaging ability and double jumping and dashing around. The key to not dying in this battle was to abuse the hell out of my mobility, staying on the move and getting chip damage on the enemies where I could. The swarms of enemies felt never-ending, but I slowly whittled them down. Ah, what the fuck is that? Finally, after what felt like an eternity of bobbing and weaving around this mall, I take the last enemy out. At last, I've unlocked the all-important Tailwind perk. My air dashes no longer consume stamina, and I gain stamina from double jumps and air dashes. Shortly after, I get into another boss fight, Matilda K. Rose. She's a melee combatant with a large HP pool and a giant hammer that can nuke me if I'm not careful, which I found out the hard way, of course. Upon re-entering the fight, I saw a glowing purple light on her back. I figured it must be her weak spot. Upon destroying her weak spot, she drops her hammer for me to collect after the fight. She switches to using her hands, which still really hurt. I continued to play a hit and run style. After some time, my damage over time bleeds end up taking her out. I pick up and equip her weapon, the Sasquatch hammer, an iconic blunt weapon that neuters my ability to sprint, dodge, and jump. For that reason, I probably won't use the weapon much, but let's test it out. Holy shit! I meet a Netwatch agent and I cut a deal with him. My actions here will later anger the Voodoo Boys. I unlocked the Flash and Thunderclap perk. Since I've already hit 20 reflex, I'll start putting the attribute points in body, but I want to finish getting the important blade nodes in the reflex tree, so I'll keep dumping perk points into it until I have all of them. By the way, the passive skill tree has given me a perk point for hitting 15 in Headhunter. I'll get another perk point shortly from the Shinobi tree as well. Back at the Voodoo base, Brigitte appears and offers to help me with my virus chip problem, so it's time for another Johnny Silverhand sequence. As Silverhand, I meet up with Rogue and Santiago, who I can only assume is Cyberpunk Hassan Piker. Turns out I was tailed on my way here, so the place is infested with enemies now. Remember, when I play a Silverhand, I only have the ability to quick melee and my fists. I don't have access to the advanced movement techniques that I do when I'm playing V. As a result, I died here. A lot. So, let's focus on the sequence where I didn't die. Here's a quick montage. And with this final kill, a forced gunfight sequence begins. So I take care of that business really quickly. After that, Silverhand and the gang decide to infiltrate Arasaka Tower. More Silverhand combat, but I have one extra person in the gang assisting me. I encounter a hallway with a turret that automatically tracks me. Initially, this looks like a tricky encounter, but one of my teammates just blows up the turret. Problem solved. There's also another turret room, this time with 2 turrets. A teammate takes out the first one, so I jump in to punch out the second one. The next room was a boss fight, Akira. A really easy fight since I had 3 other people constantly shooting at him. I just jumped around and meleeed him where I could, making sure to avoid taking damage. My gang ends up finishing him off.
Get out of my way.
Damn, Johnny. Damn, Johnny! After finding Ult in the cybernet, she kills all the Voodoo Boys who were jacked in order to avoid Netwatch from tracking her. This naturally pisses off all the Voodoo Boys, so I have to fight my way out of their base. Getting out of this base was proving to be quite difficult as many of the spaces were tight and cramped, so I couldn't use the full range of my mobility. I slash and hammer my way through the grunt enemies and make it to a boss fight. It's Placide, and he is not happy with me. Placide can be a rather difficult fight. He mainly uses a shotgun, but he can also swap to melee. Whenever I throw my knife at him, he dodges it. Best I could hope for was to stay mobile by dashing around and abusing Flash and Thunderclap to quickly close the distance between us for damage. However, I ended up dying to a shotgun. I came back to try again. This time my strategy was to spin a Rooney around him and hope that he misses all of his shotgun shots. This mostly was proving to work out, however there were a couple scary moments where I almost died. I repeated this until he finally went down. Outside the Voodoo Boys base, I get a call from Songbird. This call signifies the start of the Phantom Liberty questline. I get enough perk points to unlock the Blade finisher. Next video, I'll get to start the Phantom Liberty DLC. I'm pretty excited to do that, so I hope you are too. I'll see you guys next time. But wait, don't click off yet. I'd like to take this time to promote my friend Ed's channel. He's a talented game developer who's currently working on his own RPG roguelike, Project Bloom. I'll have a link to his video on the right of your screen here, and I'll also link his channel down in the description. If you are at all interested in the game development process, then please go show him some love, and I thank you in advance.